Hey everybody, this is Fahim Musa of RadicalTribe.com. Welcome to episode 18 of Radical Tribe. This is the Freedom Show. This is where you learn to escape 9 to 5 and create your own freedom. Okay, so this week we have a very special case study of a guy that is trying to create a business based on his passion. Okay, a lot of you out there may be unfulfilled in your corporate jobs or careers and may be wondering how to make that transition and how to just make that first step into doing something that you absolutely love. Now, here's an example of someone. His name is Peter Morgan of the DJpodcast.com that is doing exactly that. This is a wonderful little case study meant to inspire you to take that first step and start that side project. Okay, as always, if you'd like these case studies to your inbox week after week, be sure to subscribe to the mailing list at radicaltribe.com/subscribe. That's radicaltribe.com/subscribe. Enjoy the show. Okay, Peter Morgan, thank you so much for joining me on Radical Tribe. Very, very happy to have you here. Let's start off with your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I live in Los Angeles, California, and I went to school for media production. And in my free time, I worked on the DJpodcast.com, which is a website based around video tutorials and sort of opinion pieces on DJing and music production.
So, are you still in school, or was that in the past?
I graduated in 2011.
Okay.
And I've been happy to be out.
Okay. So what do you do? You said you do DJ podcast in your free time. So what do you do the rest of the time today?
Well, I recently moved back to California from Massachusetts, and I'm currently looking for work doing video editing, which is what I studied for in school. And so it's a mix between looking for work and working on something that doesn't pay me as much as a real job.
Okay. Hey, but you know what? That's really enterprising of you. Starting off your own thing, even if it's if you're starting off in a small way, starting off your own thing while you're looking for a job. So let's talk about DJ podcast. What you do in your free time. Talk to us a little bit about how you came up with the idea and what was going through your head. What was the ideation process like? What were the different options you had in mind, etc., etc.?
Sure. Well, when YouTube first started, there was sort of a small group of people that were making videos about DJing. And I don't know how many people realize this, but before YouTube really came around, video was pretty scarce on the net. It wasn't that easy to find them, and they weren't very good quality. And even when YouTube started, the quality wasn't very good. But so there was a group of people that started making videos on DJing, how to do certain things, how to use certain pieces of equipment, and I started making my own then, and they were really bad. I mean, the software at the time wasn't great. And in 2009, I had kind of taken a break from making the videos. I was in school, so I didn't have the same amount of time to spend. And I started again, and this time software was better. It was easier to make the videos. It was easier to put the videos out there where people could see them. And so that's when I started to kind of take things a bit more seriously, and it's just sort of gone from there.
Okay, so that's great. So you mentioned that in 2008 you started producing those videos, making those videos. So let's talk about how you acquired these skills. Take us back to the time when you started using this equipment yourself, and were you a DJ yourself.
Sure. Well, when I was a teenager sometime, I went to a computer camp for the summer, and one of the things that they they had you do was make like a short 5-minute video. So over the course of a week, you would kind of write a little script or whatever. You learn about storyboarding, and then you would shoot and then edit your little video. And I'd always kind of been interested in like shooting little videos with my friends or whatnot, and that kind of introduced me to editing. And so I kind of continued making little videos with my friends, and then the editing portion was kind of the most interesting to me. And in 2004, I kind of learned a lot about electronic music and DJing, and I was like, this sounds pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how to write my own music, but thankfully there's a way that I can interact with music still through DJing. So I started doing that, and then sort of the two paths collided of I like to make videos, I like to DJ, I like to make videos about DJing, and sort of was a natural fit at that point.
Okay. So you started off as a DJ, and then you started making these videos after that. Talk to us about your gigs as a DJ. What was that like? How did you get the gigs, and what was life like as a DJ back then, albeit a part-time DJ?
Well, I was always what a lot of people classify as a bedroom DJ, where it's just something you do for fun. I mean, at that point, I was like 15 or something when I started doing it, so it's not as if I could just go out to a club. I mean, you have to be 21 here in the States, and so it was always just sort of a hobby for me, and sort of since I started, I've never had kind of full time with it. I've always had to kind of start and stop, whether it would be because I would go away from school or go away to school and I wouldn't have my stuff with me, and so it was never really about becoming or doing DJing as any sort of job.
Okay, so that was my next question as to why you didn't go down that path of becoming a DJ, and as opposed to taking a little bit of a turn in terms of the media production side of of what you do. But this is interesting because you have a passion that is music and DJing, and then you merge that with a skill that is media production, and now you've got something of your own where you have tutorials and a podcast and things like that. So this is great. So I really appreciate people like you that, as Seth Godin says, don't ask for permission, just do what you have to do, and be proactive and sort of make your own life. So this is great. So let's talk about the end now. I mean, this may be a vague question, but see what you can make of it. What is your vision, Peter, in terms of what you're doing right now? I know you said you're doing it as a hobby, but let's say 5 years down the road, where do you see yourself with this? I know you're also looking for a video production job right now. Obviously, you want a steady life and that kind of thing. But in terms of what you're doing right now, ideally, what would you like to happen in 5 years?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I've necessarily thought about that, but I think it would be cool if somehow the DJ podcast could support itself or support me. I'm not sure what exactly that would look like, if that would be similar to what it is now, or if it would maybe take a different path. Or the alternative would be that I use it as a way to get a job within the industry itself. So I'm trained to work in video production, but there's a whole industry based around the products that are sold to DJ, the music companies, obviously, that have to promote the music that people DJ with. So there's a lot of different avenues on that side of things that I wouldn't necessarily say I train for and might not necessarily be qualified for, but there's a lot of stuff in that area that I could see myself using the DJ podcast as kind of a way into.
Absolutely. It's amazing how how many tools are out there for anybody to use, and sort of differentiate themselves from everybody else in the industry, right? I mean, you started off with the podcast. It doesn't cost anything to produce a podcast. Now you've got the tutorials. So it's amazing how much technology is out there and how many tools are out there that can help people like you that want to take the initiative. So this is great. I know you're doing this as a hobby, but I saw you've got a course up at Udemy, and you've got some products for sale at your site. Even though you're looking at it as a hobby, have you thought about, if this is going to work in terms of bringing you money? Have you thought about a revenue model? How are you going to make money out of this?
Yeah, I've thought about it a little bit. There's definitely some difficulties when you talk about online video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to just be a person that makes videos and posts them to YouTube, unless you're really, really popular,
mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to get that far.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about the people that have millions of subscribers, they do plenty well for themselves, but most people aren't that popular.
Yeah.
So when it comes to just having ad revenue and whatnot, you definitely need to diversify what you're doing if you want to actually make a living off of what you're doing.
Absolutely. And what have you? I know ad revenue is going to be difficult if you don't have the traffic, but what are the other things on the anvil in terms of products and services and other revenue generating ideas?
Sure. Well, I mean, you mentioned Udemy, which the one that I have up now is a free course. It's really just YouTube videos that are kind of collected there.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely the option of doing some paid content. So whether that's tutorials or something different maybe that I haven't necessarily thought of, but there's all sorts of different ways that you can monetize, whether that be kind of creating a premium membership on your
mm-hmm.
site and kind of giving content to just the people that subscribe. There's also, again, having paid content where people just straight up pay for whatever it is. There's merchandise. There's all sorts of things that I could do. It's just a matter of, I guess, the conceptualization of whatever that's going to be.
Okay, so I think this is a good segue into challenges. You mentioned, you talked a little bit about difficulty of being found on YouTube, especially when you're starting out and you're not going to have millions of followers overnight. In terms of all the things that you're doing, all the different initiatives, your DJ podcast, your tutorials, your Udemy courses, etc. What are the key challenges you face right now? What are the key frustrations?
Well, I guess one of them is just that I'm only one person, and
mm-hmm.
so if there's something that I don't know how to do, it's either up to me to figure out a way to do it or get someone to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that this is only a side project, I don't necessarily want to pay someone.
Yep.
So most of the time it's me trying to figure out how to do something. And so far there hasn't really been anything too big of a hurdle that I can't cross, but mm-hmm. there are some instances when I just decide that whatever I'm trying to do, someone can do it better than me. And that's one tip I would have for people, is that if you know that you're not necessarily good at something like web design, then don't be afraid to just pay someone else to do it or buy a template online that you think looks good, because a lot of the times it's just not worth the hassle of trying to put something together yourself if you're really not that good at it.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you got a designer to put your website together.
The way it currently looks now is just a template, so mm-hmm. you can download it as a theme and install it, and then it kind of instantly makes it look great.
Okay. So what have you got in mind, Peter, in terms of getting your name out there and marketing yourself? I know you talked about YouTube, adding those videos on YouTube. YouTube itself is a search engine. It'll get you hits. I know you're on Udemy right now. That's how I saw you. Strategically, how are you going about doing this? Are you looking at the various platforms and making yourself, creating content on those platforms and, having people get to know you there? Or is there, what are you thinking in terms of marketing and getting your name out there?
Well, marketing was never something that I really thought about. At least when I started, it was more of just, I want to make these videos, I'm going to put them up. But it's definitely seemed to be something that you need to focus on no matter what you're making, if it's videos or a website service or anything. And one thing that I've always kind of stayed away from is that kind of spam you all the time stuff that some people do. I kind of treat it as if I was someone that was interested in something, how would I want to be notified of that, or how would I want to learn about that? And so I do the things that everybody does with, Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, but also I'm trying to kind of take opportunities where I see them that might be something different. So for example, I learned about this site called Udemy, and then you can create a free course. It doesn't cost me anything, and it doesn't cost anyone to watch it, so I may as well put one together. And that gets eyeballs. I've also tried doing some live streaming. So you kind of take a capture of what your screen is, and then you send it out. It's really just about trying different things and seeing what works, what doesn't.
Okay, that's great. This is a big one. The next question, Peter. I'm always amazed when people do side projects, how they manage their time. I know you said you're looking for work right now, but I've been in that same situation before, and looking for a job is a full-time job. That's what I believe. There's a lot of work to be done. There's resumes, there's interviews, etc., etc. And now you have this side project, which obviously is sucking up a lot of your time, and you can get sucked in because you're trying to figure things out. You're reading a lot, and then you're making these videos and editing them. I know for a fact that takes a bunch of time to do. So how do you manage your time when you're looking for a job right now and you have a side project? So how do you manage your time and get through the day?
Well, that was always one thing that sort of kept me from elevating this. I mean, when I was in school is when I started the site, and of course, if you're in college, you're probably off doing things that are a lot more exciting than sitting in your dorm room and making a video about some piece of software. And then after I graduated, I was working as well, and so it's definitely tricky. Although what I've come to learn is that it helps to kind of figure out the fastest way to do things. Video is not necessarily something that you can do very quickly. I mean, if you just turn a camera on and talk into it for 5 minutes and turn it off and upload it, that's fine, that's great, but it's probably not going to be a very good video.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of preparation, and the way that I do it now is I just break everything up into chunks. So I say, okay, I want to do X number of videos, then I'll spend one day preparing them, one day recording them, and then the next day editing them. And so if you put it all together, you can often save time in between, and that's sort of how I've come to be able to do it, is just get it down to as little time as possible and do things in chunks together.
Absolutely. This is great. I love your story, Peter. Let's get to the last segment of the show, where I ask you for 3 specific actions that people in the audience can take to start a side project.
Sure. Well, I would say if you want to try DJing, you can definitely do that. And great thing is that now you don't have to pay any money. So before it would cost you at least a couple $100s just to see if it was something that you're interested in. And now you can do it for free. So if you have an iPhone or an iPod Touch, you can download software called Cross DJ. So that's one that you should check out. And if you want to try it on your computer, there's one called Virtual DJ Home, I believe is the free version of it.
Okay.
And you can find all sorts of legally free music as opposed to stuff you download illegally at SoundCloud.com. It's where a lot of different artists post their own original productions that you can get. And sort of a tip for anyone that's trying to create something for themselves, I would say don't rely solely on other services. So, for example, if YouTube just decided that they were going to shut down tomorrow, it's not as if I would be messed up because I have all of my videos on my own site. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like if you put all your eggs into MySpace and then people switch over to Facebook, well, if you don't have something of your own, then you can kind of get screwed when something goes under or people decide that they don't want to use that site anymore.
So have your own platform is what you're saying, like you have the djpodcast.com.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, if for whatever reason iTunes decides they don't want to do podcasts anymore or YouTube decides they don't want to host videos, then there's always something that is there and you can fall back on.
Okay. So you talked about the free software if people want to be a DJ. You talked about the importance of having your own platform. What's one other tip you can share with us?
Let's see. Well, I said earlier kind of how I break things up into chunks. Mm-hmm. And one thing that's really important is that, especially if you're doing something like posting videos to YouTube, there's a lot of repeated tasks that you have to do. So, mm-hmm. For example, if every one of your videos has a link to your website, well, then you should make it as fast as possible to put that link in there. So whether that would be to use templates for graphics or templates for blog post text, it always helps to make it so that whatever you're doing, you can do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, that's great. So Peter Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Sure, they can go to thedjpodcast.com and click on the contact button at the top.
Is it DJ? Do you have a the or just a DJ podcast?
It is thedjpodcast.com.
Okay.
And you can go there and send me an email, or you can always tweet to @thedjpodcast on Twitter.
That's great. Peter Morgan, thank you so much. I salute your enterprising spirit, and I wish you all the very best with all your initiatives.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Peter Morgan of the djpodcast.com. For complete notes and a full summary of this case study, go to radicaltribe.com/session18. That's radicaltribe.com/session18. Again, if you want these case studies straight to your inbox week after week, go to radicaltribe.com/subscribe. Till next time, folks, take care and stay radical. See ya.